welcome. Thank you for choosing this quiet corner of the day to find your rest. This audiobook novel is a gentle offering, a peaceful soundscape designed to help you release the day's tension and settle into a state of deep and effortless calm. It is a story that moves at the pace of a slow breath, inviting you to simply be present and listen. Our story is called The Gentle Archive of Seeds. We will join Arthur in the warm, quiet light of his glasshouse, a sanctuary of patient work. Here, peace is found in the simple, tactile ritual of sorting seeds for a future season. We will explore the beauty of small things and the profound tranquility that can be found in a slow, mindful, and gentle task. Before you let this story carry you away, if you find this peaceful experience comforting, you might consider a gentle like or subscription before you set your device aside. For now, all that is left to do is to settle into your comfort, to soften your focus, and to allow the quiet of the glasshouse to surround you. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The Old Wooden Box. The afternoon sun, having lost its midday intensity, poured a soft, honeyed light into the glasshouse. It streamed through the large, overlapping panes of old glass, each one with its own subtle waves and imperfections, so that the light falling upon the stone floor was not sharp, but gently diffused. This warm light illuminated the quiet air, revealing the slow, lazy dance of 1,000 dust motes and tiny particles of dry soil. The atmosphere was warm and still, carrying the rich, clean scent of damp earth and the faint green perfume of growing things. Arthur moved through this quiet, light-filled space, his footsteps making a soft, shuffling sound on the flagstones. He passed rows of terracotta pots, some empty and waiting, others holding small, sleeping seedlings. His destination was a corner of the glasshouse dedicated to potting and preparation. Here, a long, sturdy workbench stood against the glass wall, its surface scarred and stained from decades of gentle work. Above it, a series of deep wooden shelves were fixed to the wall, holding string, labels, small tools, and at the very end, a small wooden box. This box was his objective. It was not large, perhaps the size of a thick book, but it was beautifully made from a dark, rich wood, possibly walnut. The years had been kind to it, wearing its edges smooth and giving its surface a deep, soft patina. Arthur reached up with both hands and carefully took it down from the shelf. It had a pleasing, solid weight. He held it for a moment, his thumbs tracing the intricate, shallow carving of a single sunflower on its lid. The wood felt smooth and slightly warm, having soaked up the ambient heat of the glasshouse. He carried the box to the workbench and set it down with a soft, solid sound. The light from the window caught the surface, highlighting the grain of the wood and the almost invisible layer of fine dust that had settled upon it. He ran the palm of his hand over the lid, wiping the dust away in a single gentle sweep. The action was familiar, almost unconscious, a small gesture of respect for the object and its contents. He placed his fingertips under the edge of the lid and lifted. There were no hinges, just a simple snug fit. As the lid separated from the base, a new scent was released into the air, mingling with the earthy smell of the glasshouse. It was a dry, papery, and faintly spicy scent. The smell of seasons past, of dried seed husks and old paper, all held in preservation. It was the scent of dormant potential, of sleeping life. Inside, the box was filled with a charmingly untidy collection of small paper packets. They were a jumble of different shapes and sizes, some store-bought with faded color illustrations, others clearly handmade from folded brown paper. Many were held shut with a simple fold, while others were sealed with a rusty paper clip. On each one, a name was written, the ink faded by time and light. Lupin, calendula, poppy, sweet pea. Some labels were in his own careful script, while others were in a more hurried Lupin hand he barely recognized as his own from many years ago. He let his fingers drift lightly over the tops of the packets, the sound a soft, dry crinkling, like the rustle of autumn leaves. Each packet was a small contained memory of a past summer, a tangible link to a profusion of color and life. There was no hurry to his actions. This moment of reconnection, of surveying his gentle archive, was as important as the sorting itself. He was reacquainting himself with the promises he had collected, the quiet, sleeping potential of a future garden, all held within the dark, fragrant confines of the old wooden box. Chapter 2. A Cascade of Marigolds. Arthur's fingers continued their slow, gentle exploration of the packets nestled inside the box. They brushed past a thick, sturdy packet of sunflower seeds and a long, thin envelope of delphiniums before settling on one in particular. It was a small, almost square packet made of soft, slightly yellowed paper that had grown pliable with age. It felt light, and when he picked it up, he could hear the faint, dry rattle of the seeds within. On the front, written in his own hand from the previous year, the single word Marigolds was inscribed in faded blue ink. He lifted the packet from the box, its crinkling sound soft in the quiet of the glasshouse. He held it in the palm of his hand for a moment, feeling its lack of weight. Marigold seeds were light, almost ethereal. He remembered the plants they had come from, a sturdy row along the edge of the vegetable patch, their bright orange and yellow heads like small, cheerful suns, their scent sharp and peppery in the warm summer air. The packet was a direct connection to that memory, a small vessel of captured sunlight. On the workbench beside the wooden box sat a clean, white ceramic plate. It was a simple, unadorned plate, its only purpose to serve as a clean, bright surface for this very task. Its smooth, slightly cool glaze offered the perfect, high-contrast background for the work of sorting. Arthur took the marigold packet and held it over the center of the plate. Instead of tearing it open haphazardly, he carefully worked a fingernail under the folded flap at the top, gently unsealing the packet without ripping the old soft paper. The paper gave way with a faint, whispering tear. He tilted the open corner of the packet downwards towards the plate. For a second, nothing happened. Then, with a gentle shake, the seeds began to move. They cascaded out onto the white ceramic surface in a sudden dry rush. The sound was delicate and beautiful, a sound entirely its own. not a clatter, not a splash, but a soft, sibilant, like fine sand pouring, or the sound of a sudden brief shower of rain on a dry leaf. The seeds tumbled over one another, spreading out from the center of the plate in a dark, organic pattern. In a few seconds, the packet was empty, and a small, dark pile now rested on the pristine white surface. Arthur set the empty packet aside and leaned closer to observe the seeds. They were fascinatingly intricate. Each one was a long, thin black spear, perfectly straight, with a feathery tuft of white fibers at one end, like the fletching of a miniature arrow. They lay in a jumble, a chaotic collection of tiny black and white lines against the bright plate. Some were perfectly formed, long and plump. Others were smaller, thinner, or slightly bent. He did not touch them yet. He simply looked, appreciating the stark graphic beauty of the scene, the deep matte black of the seeds against the glossy white of the plate. The way the afternoon light caught the fine silvery white fibers of the feathery tips, making them seem to glow faintly. It was a small, perfect world of texture and contrast. The air was still. The glasshouse was silent, save for the almost inaudible hum of a bee bumping gently against a distant pane of glass. The seeds were out, their quiet multitude revealed, waiting patiently for the next stage of their journey. The gentle cascade was over, and a new, deeper quiet began. Chapter 3. A Sorting of Specks. The small mound of marigold seeds lay still upon the white plate, a tiny mountain range of black and silver. The initial beautiful chaos of their cascade had settled, and now the time for gentle ordering had arrived. Arthur pulled a low wooden stool closer to the workbench and sat down. His posture relaxed and comfortable. The height was perfect, allowing him to look down at the plate without straining. The warm, diffused light of the glasshouse illuminated his workspace perfectly. He extended his right hand and rested it on the edge of the workbench, then slowly brought his index finger towards the pile of seeds. He did not intend to use tweezers or any other tool. The work was too intimate for that, a task best suited to the direct, sensitive connection of a fingertip. The skin of his fingertip was a landscape in itself, whorled and creased, but it was the most precise instrument he needed for this task. He touched the very edge of the pile. The seeds were feather-light, offering almost no resistance. He gently nudged a single seed away from the main group. It slid smoothly across the slick ceramic surface with a faint, almost imperceptible whisper of movement. This was the beginning of the sort. To his right, he would create a new pile for the good, viable seeds. To his left, a smaller pile for the discards, the broken, the undersized, the ones that felt hollow and unlikely to sprout. His movements became slow and rhythmic. Nudge, slide, inspect. Nudge, slide, inspect. His finger would approach a seed, gently push it a few inches across the plate, and in that short journey, his eye and his sense of touch would make a quiet judgment. A good seed felt solid, its black casing full and firm. He would slide it to the right. A poor seed might be visibly cracked, or it would feel too light, insubstantial. It would be nudged to the left. The process was deeply meditative, a form of active mindfulness. His entire world narrowed to the 10-inch diameter of the white plate. The sounds of the glasshouse faded into a soft ambient hum. His thoughts quieted, replaced by a simple, focused awareness of the task at hand. The subtle variations in the seeds became a source of quiet fascination. He noted the slight curve of one, the extra long feathery tuft on another, the satisfyingly plump shape of a third. Each was a tiny individual. The only sound accompanying his work was the faintest of auditory details, the soft shuff of his sleeve against the workbench, the gentle sigh of his own slow, even breathing, and, if he listened very intently, the tiny dry click as one seed was nudged against another. It was a sound so small it was almost a feeling, a tiny vibration felt through the plate and the wood of the bench. Slowly, the central pile diminished as the two new piles grew. The pile on the right, the pile of promise, was significantly larger. The pile on the left was small, a collection of tiny broken fragments and thin papery husks. It was not a judgment of failure, but simply an acknowledgement of nature's way. Not every seed is destined to become a flower. The work continued for many long, peaceful minutes. There was no clock in the glasshouse, no need for one. Time was measured in the slow movement of the sunbeams on the floor and the steady, patient progress of the sorting. Finally, only one seed remained in the center of the plate. It was a perfect specimen, long and dark, with a bright white plume. He nudged it gently to the right, where it came to rest atop the pile of its brethren. The sorting was complete. Chapter 4. The New Paper Packet. The sorting was done. Two distinct piles of marigold seeds now rested on the white ceramic plate, a clear testament to the patient work. The larger pile on the right seemed full of a quiet, vibrant potential, while the smaller pile on the left was simply a collection of husks. Their purpose served. Arthur looked at them for a moment, a sense of gentle order having been restored. He carefully tilted the plate to the left, sliding the small collection of broken and hollow seeds into the palm of his other hand. They felt like nothing, a tiny pile of dust and fragments. He would scatter these on the compost heap, returning them to the earth to become part of the soil that would one day nourish new life. He stood, walked to the door of the glasshouse, and gently blew them from his palm into the open air, where they dispersed like a puff of dark smoke. Returning to the bench, he turned his attention to the good seeds. Now they needed a new home, a safe vessel to hold them until the spring. From a tidy stack on the shelf above the workbench, he took a fresh, empty seed packet. Unlike the old yellowed ones from the box, this one was made of crisp, pale manila paper. It felt clean and smooth in his hands, its edges sharp, its folds precise. It smelled faintly of fresh paper and possibility. He held the packet in one hand and gently creased open the flap at the top, creating a small, waiting mouth. Then he picked up the white plate with his other hand. This next step required a steady hand. He brought the edge of the plate to the opening of the packet and tilted it carefully. The sorted seeds now a unified collection of hope, began to slide. They funneled neatly into the paper envelope with a soft, dry, rustling whisper. It was a deeply satisfying sound, the sound of a harvest being safely stored, of potential being carefully contained. He gave the plate a gentle tap with his forefinger to dislodge the last few seeds, which obediently slid down to join their companions. The plate was now empty and white once more. The packet, however, was no longer flat and lifeless. It now had a slight thickness, a subtle heft. He could feel the small, dense collection of seeds settled at its bottom. He folded the flap down, making a neat, sharp crease, and then folded it over one more time to secure it. The packet was now sealed, its precious contents protected, but its identity was still missing. He reached for a small, well-loved pencil that lay in a groove on the workbench. It was a simple graphite pencil, worn down with use, its yellow paint chipped, its end satisfyingly rounded. He laid the packet flat on the bench. Holding the pencil in a light, comfortable grip, he prepared to write. The act of labeling was the final formal step in the process, a christening of sorts. He didn't rush. He formed each letter with a slow, careful deliberation. The soft gray tip of the pencil moved across the paper with a gentle scraping whisper, a sound both dry and smooth. The graphite left a clean, dark line, a stark contrast to the pale paper. He wrote the word Marigold. The letters were clear and simple, a little shaky with age, but full of character. Beneath it, he wrote the year. This was important. It was part of the archive, a way of tracking the viability of the seeds over time. The simple act of writing, of making a mark, felt final and deeply satisfying. The pencil's quiet whisper was the last sound of the task. The packet was now complete, a small, unassuming object that held the promise of 100 tiny suns. Chapter 5. A Promise Put to Rest. The newly filled and labeled packet lay on the workbench, a small monument to a peaceful afternoon's work. Its crisp edges and clear, dark script stood in gentle contrast to the worn, faded packets still residing in the open wooden box. Arthur picked it up. It felt good in his hand. The slight, satisfying weight of the seeds settled in the bottom, the smooth, clean texture of the new paper. It was a finished thing, a complete thought. He turned back to the old wooden box, its lid still open, its interior still smelling faintly of dry earth and memory. The other packets lay in their comfortable jumble, a mosaic of past seasons. With a sense of gentle ceremony, he found a space amongst them and slid the new marigold packet into place. It fit perfectly, its clean, pale form, a bright addition to the collection. It was now part of the history and part of the future. The archive was updated. He looked at the contents of the box for another long moment. Each packet represented a task just like the one he had completed, a quiet afternoon spent in the company of hope. The box was not just a collection of seeds, it was a collection of these peaceful, meditative moments. Satisfied, he placed his hands on the lid and lowered it back onto the base. It settled into place with a soft, final thump, a sound of closure and security. The gentle archive was once again sealed, its promises put to rest until the warmth of spring called them forth. Arthur placed the box back in its designated spot on the high shelf, pushing it gently to the back. His work for the day was done. The white plate was clean, the pencil was back in its groove, and the workbench was clear. A profound sense of quiet accomplishment settled over him, a feeling as gentle and warm as the light still filtering through the glass. It was not the feeling of a great labor completed, but of a small, perfect circle closed. He turned to the low wooden stool where he had sat to do his work and pulled it away from the bench into a patch of sunlight on the stone floor. He sat down, letting out a soft, quiet sigh. He did not need to think or plan or do anything more. He simply sat. His hands rested on his knees, his shoulders relaxed. His gaze drifted around the glass house, not focusing on anything in particular, but simply taking in the peaceful scene. He watched the way the light illuminated the fine silvery hairs on the leaf of a begonia. He observed the slow, almost imperceptible hardening of a green tomato on a nearby vine. He listened to the profound, layered silence of the space, a silence made of the gentle hum of growing things, the whisper of air moving through the vents, and the distant, softened sounds of the world outside. The sunbeam he was sitting in felt wonderfully warm on his back, a pleasant, gentle heat that seemed to seep into his bones. He closed his eyes, not from tiredness, but to better feel the warmth and inhabit the quiet. There was nothing more to want, nothing more to need. The simple rhythmic task had cleared his mind, and now, in the stillness that followed, he found a perfect, uncomplicated peace. The seeds were sleeping, and for a little while, so was his active mind, resting in the warm, quiet heart of the glass house. He closed his eyes, not from tiredness, but to better feel the warmth and inhabit the quiet. There was nothing more to want, nothing more to need. The simple rhythmic task had cleared his mind, and now, in the stillness that followed, he found a perfect, uncomplicated peace. The seeds were sleeping, and for a little while, so was his active mind, resting in the warm, quiet heart of the glass house.